The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not, and where you should be subscribing to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/GaryBaumgarten. To read about stories, and they're all sourced, by the way. There are links to every single one of them that you may or may not see here or read in the mainstream media. And thanks to our great friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Boaz, speaking of my news feed, there's a story that was moved today by the BBC, posted on the BBC website, that I did not see here in the United States of America. It was very interesting because I, as a New Jersey resident and a devotee of the Sopranos show, am well aware that the mafia here in the United States, and the Sopranos show was very true to form, is into the waste management industry, as you probably well know.
Yeah, it's a very good cover.
Well, guess what has happened in the seas off the coast of Italy? This is unbelievable. Apparently, the mob there in Europe, in Italy, I guess. I'm not exactly sure where, to tell you the truth, but anyway, they were moving toxic waste, disposing of toxic waste. So there's this ship that's full of toxic waste. How do they dispose of them there? They don't dump them in a landfill like they do here in Jersey. They sunk the boat. They sunk the boat. They've got video there on the BBC website of this boat on the ship's bottom leaching toxins into the water. Can you believe that?
Well, I'm not actually surprised. A lot of stuff goes on in Italy that wouldn't happen in the United States. There's a lot less regulation there. So I'm not surprised that they would sink a boat. Maybe this is the first time they were caught doing it, or other countries caught doing it. But it's a known fact that the oceans and the seas are being used as big garbage dumps for ships, for pirates, for whatnot.
Yeah, we already know that there are cruise ships that routinely dump waste into the ocean. It's horrible. Anyways, I found that to be perhaps the most interesting story on the feed today. It's a pretty long feed. You guys should check it out. Anyway, that being said, yesterday you will recall that we sent our correspondent, Alan Jacey, out to the United Nations because it was the opening day of the opening session of the General Assembly, the new General Assembly at the UN. Things don't really get rocking and rolling until next week when all the world leaders come to town, and then it's going to be quite interesting. The president of Libya, or the prime minister of Libya, or Libya, the Libyan ambassador to the United Nations, believe it or not, is the General Assembly chair for the next 364 days. So I'm sure we're going to see a very even-handed approach to a number of issues, including terrorism and Israel and all that, because we know what a great world leader Libya is. Thank God.
Like everything else in the UN.
Like everything else in the UN. Thank God the real power rests with the Security Council, and thank God the United States is a permanent member of the Security Council with veto power. So at least some of this overwhelming stupidity that comes out of the political side of the United Nations can be somewhat tempered. But when Alan was with us live yesterday on the telephone. He had just interviewed a fellow who is helping organize a rally at the United Nations, an Iranian guy, against Ahmadinejad's address to the UN, something that I support, the rally. There's going to be one on the 23rd that this guy is organizing, and I presume there'll be one on the 24th because I think that's the exact date that Ahmadinejad is going to be addressing the General Assembly. And as a public service to our audience, we bring you that interview now.
Abbas, and we are here to campaign against the Ahmadinejad because he's invited to the United Nations General Assembly on Wednesday, September 23rd at 11:30 to talk about in front of the UN. We have a rally over here. We inviting the people here to join us against Ahmadinejad because we want to have a strong voice against this man who is the murderer and who is the criminal against the Iranian people. Ahmadinejad was the person who killed 1,000 political prisoners in 1980s, and his fake name, he had the nickname with the Mirzai. He was a torturer at that time. He shot the coup de grace against the political prisoners in 1980s.
Well, what do you think about the fact that he just got re-elected in this very confrontational election?
Well, actually, the election doesn't mean anything in Iran. As you know, when you have a dictatorial regime, fascist religious dictatorial regime in Iran, talking about the election doesn't mean anything. So he was just selected by the supreme leader of the religious supreme leader Khamenei, and the reason for that because the whole election was a sham election because it was engineered by the Khamenei in order to bring out Ahmadinejad from the ballot boxes because he could serve better for the Khamenei because as you know the Iranian regime needs to suppress the Iranian people inside and at the same time to exploiting the terrorism and the fundamentalism outside. So with the Ahmadinejad, he could pursue that kind of the policy. And also, as you know, the Iranian regime is very close to the nuclear bomb, so that's why he was selected by the Khamenei.
Now, why do you think that even though Mousavi has had a close relationship with Khamenei for all these years, why do you think that they just continued with Ahmadinejad based on the relationship between Mousavi and Khamenei?
Well, Mr. Mousavi himself was prime minister of this regime for 8 years in 1980s. And the reason that the Ahmadinejad was selected because, the Iranian regime cannot continue with the Mousavi because, well,